The same way I made sure I was where I am in my business, I have very intentionally put that energy into my personal life. Anyone you ask around me will say that I have told them, if you know somebody, please introduce me. I've said it to you. I've said it to every person in my life, and I have no fear in saying that. The same way when I was raising capital, I had no fear introducing myself in rooms. I treated it pretty similarly, honestly. It just was my bullish ability to say that I want this and I'm gonna get it. And it had to be phases in life for me. So I was so laser focused on my business. So I just really believe everybody needs to feel confident and secure in their path and journey. I never wanted to be the brown girl brand. I wanted to be the brand that was finally inclusive of brown girls. I don't want to be in a niche aisle, like ethnic aisle. I want to be next to Bobbi Brown, MAC Cosmetics, Charlotte Tilbury. We deserve to have a brand founded by someone who looks like me next to the biggest brands in the world. And that is what's happening. People are just picking up the product and have no idea it was founded by me, but then they randomly hear it and they're like, a brown girl made this? That's cool.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the CEO School podcast. I'm your host, Suneera Madhani, and I am so excited for you to just hop right into this episode because we've already started without you, and I'm actually going back and doing the intro so you get to know who I'm speaking to. This woman needs no introduction. Deepica Mutyala is the founder of Live Tinted, and if you've heard, you're like, wait, how do I know Live Tinted? Well, there is a Live Tinted product, the HueGuard product that sells one every 2 minutes. She's in every single Ulta. So every location, 1,400 locations of Ulta. She is the founder of Live Tinted, who's built the most incredible community and platform. She's been recognized by every magazine from Forbes to Entrepreneur to Inc. Every time I open my Instagram, I see something incredible. Someone sharing about Deepika. She was also recently awarded Time Magazine's 100 Next Generation Leaders. So we're talking the ultimate flex here. But outside of all of her accolades, Deepika and I have been friends over the last several years, and I've watched her journey unfold in real time from founder to where she's at in CEO, and now really stepping back into her founder mode. So the conversation is super real, and we decided to start filming. And so I didn't get to do the intro, so we're going to do this backwards. Welcome to the show, Deepika. Going from this 25 to this 100, it's it literally is rebuilding so much stuff, or it's just the teams and this and that, and it is recognizing a lot of people can't tell you it is hard. That's why this is not for the faint of heart at all. And people expect these for some people, I think what I also felt sometimes, and I think you might be feeling this, it looks like it's easier for them on the other side. Well, they got the exit and then they got to do that. And it's it could be, but this is our path, and unfortunately the path I've always taken is always the hardest fucking path. Every fucking time. So even with this, I've been doing this for 400 episodes. Now what? I've already gone through the hard stuff. Where's my pop-up? Where's my fucking hot, rich, smart, immediately? Why? I put in the work. I put in the stuff. We've got a really good brand. It's growing. Okay. It's all of that. So I have to recognize, no, it's really great. But I compare it to, here's this whatever that next thing is. And unfortunately, I think the truth and the reality of it is also it's just harder I do think it's harder for brown women. And so there is that part of it where there's something missing because you're putting in the work. We put in the, I know I'm doing all the things in the right way, but the virality won't come on mine. I don't, and there will be moments of it. And so I do think that you have your head on the prize. And the way that I would view it is, what is the next milestone that I need to hit? Forget the CEO, forget the whatever. What is it that I need? I need to look like 10% EBITDA. Let's go make that happen. Mm-hmm. And then we put, even though the team might not be perfect, who's the smartest person? In all the things that I could put, I've learned to recently delegate outcomes versus if I need that to be the outcome, who can I delegate out the outcome to on the team versus here's what needs to happen, but who can help me own this outcome? And that was a different shift in one of my mentors shared that with me, and I'm okay, let me try that. So if it's 10% and what that looks like, and then once you kind of see it, you're okay, cool, that's going to happen in a year. And then what does your good enough look like to get there? Mm-hmm. So then you don't overextend on the weekend and then whatever. And so because the cake has to bake. So no matter how many extra hours, or no matter how many extra pitches, or no matter how many extra conferences, that doesn't move the needle. So then you can limit back your own sanity a bit. And you've got to take care of yourself. I remember this exact moment. I bet Carlos remembers this exact moment when I was 20 pounds. I was 140 pounds at 5 feet. tall. I was so fat when I was like recording at the end of the Stacks exit. Okay, I was crying every time I was in the studio because it was my only space. My office was actually walking.
Are you actually 5 feet tall?
Yeah, I'm 5 feet tall.
Well, this is my stress because I was 125 and now I'm 140. I'm 5'6" though, and I feel disgusting.
You're 5'6".
Yeah.
And you don't look disgusting.
But I just feel it.
Yeah.
You know, everybody feels it.
Yeah. And so like I remember even like coming in here and I would record on the studio, and I found passion in like, this is how this project got kicked off because it was my one sense of relief outside of what.
Yeah, you actually genuinely enjoy this. The reason I haven't started a podcast is like, it's another job. It's more than no.
But then it becomes, again, year 5, year 6, the first 5 years is creative.
Yeah.
Then you want to build and you're like, oh, this is exciting. And then now I'm like, what do I do with this?
Yeah.
And then it's still at this place where it's like, it's a really great thing. We have a really great, like, it's so much good in it. And then I feel there are not any women that look like me that are doing this. And that's important. And so I find passion to come back, but I'm like, okay, when is it enough then? You know, and
I have my question to you.
Yeah.
I'm like, I guess again, I'm not in your shoes where I have 2 kids and the family already established, to where then it's like, this is my joy because I already have that other stuff. To me, when I see my friends who have exited and then potentially starting another company, exiting that, and do a podcast and write a book and do the things, I'm just like, I am such in a different mental state of life around like, not the anti-girl boss, but like there's life outside of the girl boss vibe.
100%.
Yeah, I guess I just feel like, as much as I feel like I played into the girl boss narrative, I also am realizing that there's such an other side of life that I think we almost have overcorrected for, that I am excited to experience and enjoy. And that's why, you know, so many of these girl bosses are also moms and married and have all the things, aka you. That's not me. I haven't experienced that chapter of life, right? So like, I didn't want it to get to a point where I was resentful of my company at the expense of having that other, really arguably, I think, much more important part of life, which is having a family for me. And so I had to just make some decisions in my life to say, like, this is a priority over anything. And it's actually made me happier overall in life, which then therefore impacts the business. It's interesting how it's like a full circle thing.
I think that you're spot on. And I think that was 100%. Even when I started the company, that was like a non-negotiable for me. So for me, I wanted to be a mom. Like, all I remember outside of wanting to have like super success, and I was always really ambitious, but I've been with like Faisal since I was 20 years old.
Yeah, you guys are babies.
We're babies, you know? And so like, we got married super young, but it was like,
you were building together.
We've always built together. He was an entrepreneur, then I was in corporate. When he was successful, I was able to quit my job. But one of the things that, like, I don't know what it was, and this was like a different gen too, like, we're elder millennials, but it was like, yeah, we were dating for 4, like, it was like time. So it was like time to get married. Then it was time, we did 3 years.
The difference is very much that, like, that even just with the few years of difference in age with us, it's like there was such a conditioning of, you meet the guy, you marry the guy, you have the kids with the guy, and then the rest is like just figured out together, which you literally did all those things. You just happen to do some insane building company shit in between. That is not the thing that we were taught to do that you guys did. And it's epic and iconic. But I just think, like, for me in my situation, like with this man, it's a completely different situation. We both have built companies.
Yeah.
And it's like both of these things are happening. And now it's like, okay, I have a whole life. He has a whole life. And now we're figuring out how to do a life together.
But what you're doing right, and this is what I'm saying, like, I do love what you're saying, because I do think that it's not just going to happen. You have to build life by design. Otherwise, it will fly by. And that is what's happening to all my friends that are, and you know what? Sometimes I feel like I'm not the right person to give this advice, because I did meet the guy. I did have the kids, but I have so many of my friends that are single, that want the same things, but you also have to make it the priority in your life for it to happen.
I would normally say you're not the person to give this advice because of the fact that you have the 2 beautiful daughters and the husband and the company so like, I see that. However, I do actually think you can, because I do think you've designed a life for yourself that is very much intentional. And I think there are plenty of my friends who I grew up with that tell me, like, you need to go and do this. I'm like, you and I have very different lives. I don't want to hear it. But I do think because you are also an entrepreneur and you have built a life, like even if you hadn't met your husband, I still think you would have intentionally looked for that partner anyways. So hearing it from you is not as annoying. I do feel like in my life right now, I am giving advice to my girlfriends who are single, and not because I have any of it figured out, but part of what I'm telling them is to stop looking at my narrative and think it's for you too. Like everyone needs to go inward. The reason I'm here and found the guy that I'm like obsessed with now is literally because I did so much inward work. Like
Yeah.
the amount of therapy, the amount of journaling, the amount of trips, the amount of like me sitting with myself and saying, what is it that I want? The amount of dating the wrong guys
Yeah.
that got me to the right guy, right? Like I think a lot of that is so much of what we don't talk about. And I haven't yet to talk about it on a podcast, but I feel secure in my relationship now to be able to do that, which is really fun. I think like I fully am very confident that I am here because I made sure I was here.
I love that.
The same way I made sure I was where I am in my business, I have very intentionally put that energy into my personal life. Anyone you ask around me will say that I have told them, if you know somebody, please introduce me. I've said it to you.
Yeah.
I've said it to every person in my life, and I have no fear in saying that. The same way when I was raising capital, I had no fear introducing myself in rooms. I treated it pretty similarly, honestly. It just was my bullish ability to say that I want this and I'm going to get it. And it had to be phases in life for me. So I think that's also another thing I tell people is like, I was so laser focused on my business. I would have never met the man that I'm with now at a different chapter of life. I wouldn't have been sure he's the right person for me. I wouldn't have given him what he deserves to get because of where I am in my company and my life and stage of life, all of it. So I just really believe everybody needs to like feel confident and secure in their path and journey. Yours is so different from mine. You met your dude at 20 years old. You guys are together building multiple companies. I met mine at 36 years old, and it was through a friend because I literally put my literal energy out there and
You
said,
did.
I want to meet my person.
I remember what you're saying is super accurate. You and I have
I'm
had
not lying. You can verify this years ago.
I've introduced, right? Like we've talked about, this is one thing that I will say where you compared business to relationships. We're going to go here for a second.
Okay.
It's exactly right because it was by design. And even what I will say, although I met the guy and I did the thing and I built the companies, you are right that it was by design because I could have lost my marriage. A lot of women that are really successful are not actually able to keep their marriage. That is also another statistic about successful women.
Yeah.
And it's easy to say, well, men are intimidated by successful women. I think that's a lot of guys don't start off that way. And so there is intentionality, even if you have a relationship and are growing a business, because it does business adds so much stress in life. Like we talk about this all the time. Like business is personal no matter what. And even though you can like however you show up to work and you want to show up in your life differently, it carries through. Your bad days at work are showing up at home. Your stress at work is showing up at home.
Yeah, but can I just say, like what you said, I do agree with it doesn't start that way. But do you know how nice it is to be with a man, like an actual man, to where you can be the girl and feminine? I think a lot of times women bring that masculine energy home, and the man doesn't like that because they want to be with the woman. They want to be with their wife. They want to be with the mother of their children. And a lot of times women can't separate that energy from work to home.
Yes.
I think with the right man, you can. He makes you feel relaxed. He makes you want to feel like the woman. He makes you want to feel like, I genuinely believe women can do it all. I've seen you, like you're running a company, you're raising your kids.
But I'm passenger princess at home.
But also you cooked for me. You cooked for the family. And like, you like that. I genuinely am in that era of my life too. I love taking care of him, but he takes care of me in completely different ways. Passenger princess. I don't plan any of the trips. I love that I don't have to do that. It's amazing. And it just brings out a feminine energy in me that like makes me so confident that I'm not going to ever make him feel emasculated. And I think you can't make a man feel emasculated if he really is a man.
I'm 100% on this boat.
And I'm a man and you won't have that problem.
I have a
man, a real man.
And this conversation is so fun right now. I didn't know this is where it's going to go. But I also think that women, what you said about it's okay to be in our feminine, right? Like it's okay. And I wasn't apologetic about that. Like
it's nice to hear you say that.
I wasn't. My entire career, my entire life, I've always been the one that I was really fashionable always. I've always gotten I cared about, like, even when I showed up in finance and in fintech and whatever else, and it was annoying because people were like, who is she? Who does she think she is? Like, how I showed up to work, how I dressed was always, it was always a concern. It was always like a topic of conversation, even with ex-bosses and stuff like that. It's not your topic of conversation to have. I like to wear stylish clothes. I want to be fashion forward. That was like one thing in my 20s, I remember, with early bosses. In my marriage, like even with investors and whatever else, I wanted to have babies. We had a deal, like, as we were going to build our businesses in life, that like it was important for Faisal. He wanted to also have a family. And like at that time, I felt like my age, and this was like a decade ago, or like, okay, I want to have my first kid by 30 was like this milestone I had in my head. But even though the company was growing really fast, I could have pushed it along. I could have done whatever. And it was like, no, I needed to make it a priority. And I broke for sure along the way. And that's for like other conversations to have on a different topic. But it was important. And I showed up like as the leader that I wish that I had. I showed up fully fucking pregnant. I showed up with every fucking no, every rejection, 7 months pregnant. Like, this is what you're going to get. Like, I'm having a family, and the conversations, and this is not this topic of like, but the conversations were horrible with investors, like around, like I had a slide on my fundraising deck that said, let's talk about the baby in the room. Like, that was actually in my Series A.
Well, I mean, I've heard investors straight up say they don't want to invest in someone who's pregnant because they're going to be too focused on their kids.
But like what you said on like, you just make stuff happen. I do believe there is a execution, like there's like a DNA, and I don't know how to describe it in people and even in founders, that I can meet somebody, I'm like, this person's going to be successful or they're not.
Yeah,
there is this level of like, I don't fucking care what it takes. Like, I'm getting the job done.
Yeah, I agree.
And you treated, what I love about like how this ties back is you actually were like, I want to be married. I want to have a family. And yes, I have all this stuff going for me, and I have to pause to make this a priority. And you made it happen. And you didn't make it happen by like, here's this one intro and here's the thing. You had to go through it to go get your prize.
Also go through wrong people too, right? Like, all of that was a part of getting to where I am now and appreciating where I am now. I think also with your situation, it's there must have been a lot of challenges building a company with your partner in life. On the flip side of it, I'm so excited that I have a partner in life, and it makes the hard, like you said, all the shit you went through in your 20s and all the investor stuff, you got to go home to him.
Yes.
You were building with him, which is another cherry on top. Also, I think I have heard stories where it goes the other way. For you guys, it obviously works great. But I think I got to the point 6 years into this. I mean, we started in 2019. So like on year 7, it's kind of like the joy won't continue unless I have that other part of my life, because it matters just as much to me of having that. But I think the girl boss thing, it's interesting to hear you say that you never apologize for like that feminine sort of energy, because I feel like I started this company and was building in the era of like the true girl boss, where you saw these women on magazine covers and it was all about being a girl boss. And it was almost in a way that felt toxic for me, that made me believe I had to have that narrative. I had to look a certain way, be a certain way, raise a certain amount of capital to be considered successful. And I
think that's for all founders. Like at like a couple of years ago, prior to the boom, like prior to like where private equity now is like a different conversation versus venture, I felt like vanity metrics were the metrics of what was successful as a founder.
Yeah.
Like how much capital, how many employees? Yeah. What's your valuation? How many employees do you have? Yeah. And how much money have you raised? Yeah. Right. Not how profitable you are. Yeah. No one asked you about that.
Right.
Right. And so I do think, girl boss or not, that was the founder metric of what success was defined as.
That is true. I think I'm just seeing my founder friends who are women do it and then do it again. It just shows me that like the core and the important thing of like what makes you happy sometimes gets lost. Because I always thought the happiness would be on the other side of a certain revenue goal, or a milestone for the business, or an exit is when you reach happiness. But I've seen too many friends get to there and like completely go through a midlife crisis and be like, who am I? Because you're now under 40 and multimillionaires, and you've achieved things that like our parents never did, or if they did, it was towards the end of their life. And it's such a weird reality to come to grasp with. And so what I've realized is that like I'm so proud of everything I've achieved, and I'm such a purpose-driven person. Like everything I do is based off of like the fact that I want to build something that hasn't been done for someone younger than me. It like fuels me. And so I think I go down the list of the things I feel like I've accomplished. I'm like, that was exciting to me because I think about like my niece holding a Barbie. That was exciting to me to think that like I'm doing the commencement speech for my university and
Congratulations.
and like, I just feel like that is like my younger 18-year-old self,
Yeah.
that feels so good to think that there's going to be not little, but young Indian women seeing someone who looks like them giving the commencement speech at the University of Texas, which is like such a predominantly, Caucasian school. And so things like that just are what motivate me. And I realized I woke up one day and recently, I think a part of it is because I met someone that I really, really love. I can't believe you said that on your camera. It's okay. I've said it to him already. We said it to each other.
Happy for you right now. I love this side of you right now too. I'm loving this side of you. And
Great.
I wish like we actually never had the original founder conversation. Like we've been trying to get you on this podcast. It's been like schedules never aligning. It'd be fun. But it'd be fun to have done like if we did this like 2 years ago or whatever.
What it would have been like a
different person.
But the reason that never happened was because I was a mad woman machine. Like finding a window of time to have done I stopped doing podcasts because I couldn't wake up without like my heart pounding, anxiety, all these things. Last year I got on Lexapro and I met this man and I'm fully off of it. He's like my human Lexapro. It's just crazy what like not just him, but like energy and who you surround yourself with. And I moved to the beach and found ways. And now my anxiety is just like the work anxiety I've had for the last 6 years of building is like virtually gone. Of course, there's pieces of it, but pretty much gone.
It's real. The work anxiety is super, super real. We're talking about, I don't even know if it made that. We just actually started rolling. So we actually don't know how we're going to come back to
yeah.
So if we're just going.
Okay.
But I don't know if it made the cut or what we were talking about, like kind of at my worst. And my community's actually experienced it because when I started the podcast, I was at Prime. And then I went through the exit with CEO Schools. If you actually like go through the original, and I went through and we talked about, like I was so CEO, like that was my only conversation, my talk, my perspective. And even when this show started, it was with purpose because I want to like see, more women get to this level. But at the same time, like my personality was like, as much as I was in my feminine, we were talking about that. I did go so hard the other way.
It's sort of the other way. It is your identity with your job, the media, the public, like and then they glorify it like CEO, you're a badass and all this stuff. And then I realized like I lost the spark in me. And I've had friends tell me this. I've had people say this to me. It's like the joy in the building went away because I felt like being a CEO, there's a role that comes with that.
Yeah.
And so we were talking about this earlier, but as much as I do think like leaning into being the CEO was really critical to get me to where I am today, I also am excited to go kind of from founder to CEO, from CEO to founder.
Yeah.
And I think that just as important as it is to tell young women that they can be the CEO, it's also important to tell them that they don't have to be. And I don't think enough people say that.
I love that.
I think so many people are so busy glorifying the story, which it is important because, of course, the numbers and the data and the stats are still very, very on the side of male CEOs are the ones running the companies at the majority, blah, blah, blah. I just think for me, I wish somebody would have said, hey, being a founder is awesome. Being the visionary for the company is awesome. It's actually very cool that you can hire somebody to handle all the bullshit you don't want to deal with. That's just as cool as being it, depending on your personality type and what you want in life and where you are in life. So where I am in life right now, I love this company to death. I want to continue to build and grow it and scale it and get it to everything that I wanted to get to. The question I always have for myself is, there's a role that only I can do, being the founder, when there's a role like the CEO that potentially someone could do better. And if not better, they could still do it and I could live a happier life.
And I love that. And I do think it comes full circle in every founder's journey. Like, I think that there is this cycle that all founders go through. You're not the first to go through it. I went through it, right? Like, we all go through it. And I think there's this shift, right, of when you start as a founder, you have to step into your CEO mode to scale. There's like no way around it. Otherwise, your company, like, you're not making it, right? And so that's when it becomes a lifestyle brand. If you want to have all the freedom and, it's never going to get... Like, if you have ambition for your company, you have to step into that role. And it is founder and CEO, right? So it's not just founder. You start as founder and then it moves into founder and CEO. And
which is what I am right now.
Which is what you are right now. And then once you kind of get to the point, and every founder ends up feeling this, is because then when the founder role starts to diminish and it's just the CEO role, then it's not fun anymore.
What happening? Like I said, when you asked me to be on the podcast,
Yeah.
I literally would just wake up in bed and I'm like, how am I even going to get on a camera right now? I am so drained. So you're right. That is actually what's been happening the last few years, which has gotten me to the point where I'm like, let me go lean into the thing that I know I can uniquely do and do it well.
Can I tell you what I want women to know? I want women to know that she deserves to have it all, whatever all looks like for her.
Exactly.
And so for me, I felt I knew what my all was. My all was 100%. My number one bucket's my family. Anyone who knows me will tell you. And that includes my brother, my mom, my in-laws, my friends, like my closest friends are my family. I am the host. I am our house is the house. Like that is what I love. It is who I am as a person. Don't ever take that away from me. My family is like number one. And I actually love to build. And I'm uniquely really good at it, right? And so like when you're good at something and you can pair it with like anything I touch, I do feel like because I'm a good executor like you in terms of I'm like, I can go all the way and that's why I can do different things and multiple things and I will execute. But I choose like this is important to me. And then when you get to a point where you don't have to do it, and I think there's like where I think financial freedom does come in a bit, right? And so when you do achieve your financial freedom, but I think that I want to offer it doesn't have to come post an exit. Okay. So I think the definition of financial freedom is also relative.
For sure.
Right. So it's relative. And so I think once you decide like what is your good enough, then you can start optimizing. And this applies to like it's like it doesn't have to be a high growth company, or I know many women right now that have awesome lifestyle businesses that also are just like, I feel so inundated with my job every day or my team every day. And like, I just want the freedom. And I think as women, we do want freedom. We want to be multi-passionate. We don't want to be put in a box, right? And that's perfectly okay. And I believe that like the thing that I feel most proud of for myself is I didn't let anybody, and as soon as wherever I was unhappy, super burnt out or whatever is when I was letting somebody else put me in a box. So whether that was my board putting me in a box, whether that was my investors putting me in a box, that was whether it was media putting me in a box or my family putting me in a box. And when I can just define what makes me happy and the amount of like energy I want to give it, and like there's no such thing as balance, but as long as my buckets are filled of like what I prioritize, that's what I feel like it is achievable. And it is achievable whether you have a career, like whether you're an entrepreneur or not, but it's like defining those levels of importance and then saying something has to give, right? And so that's why I ended up taking like the private equity deal, right? I could have stayed on further. I could have taken the company public. I could have been the first brown woman to take this, whatever. I could have done so many other things, but it was enough, right? I had run the cycle. I was 10 years into the business. I chose the out, right? That's on me to like choose the out. And then now when it came time to like build again, my brother was a visionary this time and I chose to come back into the team, but I chose in a very different role that I wanted to come in for. And that's okay too. And so I can say yes, but with better boundaries or with what I want out of this next chapter. And I think that just comes from like you going through and all of us really just going through our own experiences of it. And then you like wake up and you do the inner work and you do the things. But the difference that I hear from you is like, now you know, like, this is what I want.
Mm-hmm.
And when you define that, then you can go build your life around that.
I think there's such a flex around being called the CEO. And I want women to know there's just as much of a flex to say you don't want to be the CEO.
Yeah, I think that.
And making that choice for yourself.
I 100% agree. And I don't want to sound like I'm disagreeing with you here on this. I believe that there is a point in your business at which you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so if you are at that point where your company is scaling and, and maybe you can afford to hire a CEO early. Like I've never been in a position in any of my businesses.
I do have friends who did it from day one. They've scaled and it was epic. There's a lot of pieces that have to fall into place. First of all, the fact that they could raise capital without showing any sales is specific. How many brown women in the world do that, can do that, have done that?
You're right. That's not our story.
Yeah, the people I'm thinking of aren't that. But I do have friends who have literally been able to build a company without the get-go of just being the founder, getting a CEO in place, growing it, scaling it, exiting it.
Yeah. I think
Rare,
but doable. And I do think that if I were to do it, I guess I'm doing it at Worth. I've got a CEO in place as a partner.
And I think it's cool that, like you said, your family is the most important thing to you, and you found a way to make it at every part of your life. You build companies with your family.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I kind of didn't have a choice in it either of like what happens next in that too. Like we're all such like one team. But Deepika, I do want to talk about what is like right now. Like I feel like what are those lessons? Like I love this conversation. I do feel like we've girl bossed too hard. So I will say the first book that I did read, and actually if we go back to old episodes, I had Sophia Marissa like on the podcast, and I was like, the first book I ever read when I started the company that was like my own founder book was Girl Boss as well. And so I know she's gotten her like fair share of like backtracking that. But I think there was a time and a place of what that served.
I agree. By the way, it did serve its
purpose.
The world needed that shift to happen to then land where we are now. And that's where I just think it's important that we do land where we are now versus the extreme thoughts of like telling young women, you must be this, and then not feel like you're successful enough unless you do that. That is my journey of what I felt.
Yeah.
Watching friends and mentors and just people that I admired build and scale and raise and sell and all these things that like, I think and maybe because I'm in this part of my life, like I genuinely think moms are the best CEO of them all. Like,
they are.
You're the CEO of the household, and it's a beautiful, real job.
It really is. It's a lot. It's actually the workload that a working mom and running a business and running a household, it's exhausting. Like it really is. It's nonstop. Like the amount.
My mom has actually said to me, working is easier.
Raising kids it's so hard, and it's a lot of work. Running a household is a lot of work. And then when you choose to go build something, that's why like I do think that like, I just read a stat, 42% of businesses today in the US are currently women owned. And it is important.
Wow.
Yeah, 42%. It was a Forbes article.
I wonder what it was 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I bet it's much smaller.
It's grown significantly. Pretty much half of businesses are female owned businesses, which is exciting, and that's amazing. And like, that is incredible. And I do think that's like, the roles also at home have to shift too. And I think that the ones that are really like the reason why I was able to make it successful. And I think that once you start to kind of experience like what's next for you guys and you do have a family, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. And so like as much as like I could have retired and like just, and been with my kids, I love to I want to have my a life outside of that too. I want to build things. I want to, be part of a team and like build something bigger. Like there's a part of me that I am just I'm an innovator. I think of ideas all the time. Like I want to execute. I want to invest. I want to sit on boards. Like that's a part of me that like I want to do fun collabs. Like I want to go do that. I'm not like I can pretend I don't. And then the next idea is going to come to me and I'm going to be like, I'm going to obsess over the next thing. And so I already knew that about me. And I did try to take time to like post my exit, but it's also in my DNA to like solve problems and go build things. And I do believe that the world is really fucked up right now because one, there's no women in charge, right? And so women must have money in order to like make an impact. And to change the world, and we need to be in positions of power. And so in order for the world to change better for my daughters, right, I do believe that having more women at the top will create a better world for all of us. That's in products, services, in politics, in all the things. And so I do think that it's not just the women that we have to yes, I'm all ready for we need to be in our feminine, and that's super important. And we also need men that also will do their part. And and you're lucky enough to find a partner that will be right there with you.
Yeah, it's a partnership.
It's a partnership. And that's the shift that I do feel like is shifting. I think post-COVID, and it's not the same for everyone. I definitely have friends, and we have this entire group called the Millionaire Founders Club, and it's a group of women that are 7+ figures. It's like our YPO group. for female founders that we have at CEO School. And there are conversations that take place that I like that are like half the time, like I hear about partners, like when women are making more money than their partners, like they're not supported in the same way that maybe our partners and spouses will support us. So I do think that
I've heard so many of those.
those conversations are also where we need to shed light. Where's like the dad boss fucking book that might need to be the next revolution of like, be a fucking partner. And it's not about being stay at home or do like, I don't think we have to define and label what anyone needs to do besides like be supportive and to drive like equitable growth for us all, whether that be you want to and I think what we all want is just balance, right? Like we want to do both. Like as women, it's not that we don't want to do one. Like we actually do want to, I want to do both. I want to be able to be with my kids and choose to work when I want to.
Yeah.
Like that is like the ultimate freedom.
It's all about phases of life. Like because you have the kids, you're like, yeah, I want to continue doing this. Because I don't have the kids, it's like my focus in life is like, how can I make sure I have those kids? I can totally see a world where both of those cross-pollinate and I have kids and I'm working and doing all the things. I hope that is what it is.
I hope that is what it is.
But I just think it's what you're saying I am hearing is like, it's what I feel is like we all just want partnership.
Yeah.
Whatever that looks like to everyone. I have a friend who takes care of the house while the man works. I know someone who the man doesn't work. He takes care of the house and the woman works. Literally, I have someone in my family who is a doctor and the dad is a stay-at-home dad. And she was like, I love it. She was like, I couldn't be the stay-at-home mom. I love that he's there taking care of the kids, the house, and the family. And then I have people who are both working. They have nannies and all of those work. But it's about finding what I'm realizing now that I found a person that I think is like a partnership.
It definitely is partnership. I also think that financial freedom takes away a lot. You get a lot of support with that too.
Yes, yeah.
You know, and that is something that I do think entrepreneurship does allow. And why I think more women are fleeting towards entrepreneurship is because this is the path. This is the fastest path to freedom. They're working in corporate settings that they're tied to the desk 9 to 5, right? And even if it's a virtual desk, even if it's a whatever hybrid desk, whatever the desk is, and I run companies. I know how hard it is to build startups. We have plenty of women that work in the organization. It's very demanding. It doesn't matter whether you are a woman or you're a parent or you're a male developer. Like everyone has to put in the work. It's a startup environment. And so I don't think that I don't know if like I'm trying to find the right words to say this, but I do think that's why women are choosing entrepreneurship is because it is the most amount of flexibility to then replace out our income to define our own lives. Okay, I want to shift topics a little bit. I want to talk about the building of Live Tinted, which we're not going to go all the way back for, but we're talking about the hard lessons and these shifts of like going from founder to CEO, now wanting to go back into the founder role. What are some of those like those truths that you were like, man, I wish I knew that earlier, or I didn't waste time here? Or are there any of these like lessons that you look back at and you're like, I would have liked to have told her that?
I think a big one that comes to mind is that I have such a fortunate scenario where I have a ton of great mentors, friends, family, people who are just great advisors for me, give me a lot of advice, investors, board people, lots of advice. I also think that it helped confuse my own thoughts and my own intuition and my own gut and everything kind of just got like, wait, do I believe this or should I listen to what this person? Well, this person told me this. And so something I think I wish I knew early on and I feel till this day and I still work to do is genuinely like listening deep into your soul and body, to your gut and your voice and your vision and what you believe is why you started this company. Because if you were listening to somebody else, then why did you start your own brand? The whole point is that you have your own unique vision and purpose and why you did it. And I'm constantly forgetting that, constantly hearing from somebody, insert person here gave me advice. And I'm like, oh, well, they did it this, or they said to do it this way. They swore to me that if I do this, then I would regret it. Or like, there's so much noise when you're building a company between a board, investors, mentors, friends, other friends, peers, internet, social media, all of it. And I find that when I look back at the things that have happened for the company, that I'm like, damn, I would have done it different. It's like, yeah, I would have done it different. But because I hired somebody who said to do it this way, or I listened to a partner of ours or an investor of ours. And by the way, I don't blame anyone besides myself, because at the end of the day, I could have said, no, I disagree. But there are periods in the company building where I feel like I got more insecure and lost um potentially like my voice. And the best decisions I think that have happened for the company, and the most exciting ones, and the ones that I think people have recognized and seen that as like wins, have always been the ones that I pulled the trigger to say yes.
I love that. I think it's such an important it's such an important lesson. And I feel like hearing you, I feel a lot of like myself.
Yeah, you went through it.
I feel like I hear a lot of myself going through it. And I do feel like in the beginning, you are so good about using your intuition.
Mhm.
Like that is what gets you to the next level, because
sure.
you're like, people think you're crazy and you're like, no, my gut says this. I'm leaning on this. You're taking the most obnoxious bets too. You're like, we're going to throw money here and that's what's going to be. I'm going to make this higher and that's what it's going to be. And you are literally using your intuition, and you don't even have that much data. Like, it's not even like you have that much data. Then as it grows, I think what you said is real around too much advice. Like, I think one of the things that I actually didn't have, like you, is my board and my investors were always somebody like I reported into, versus more, I don't want to say all of them because that's not fair to all of my amazing mentors that have been on my board, et cetera. But most of it was more like, here's like the financial, like board meetings. And of course I could go to them for strategy, but I wasn't like personally going to them for advice. However, I had one mentor that I went to for like life advice,
And that's
for
great.
real advice. And he, to this day, I talk about him often, like C. Framji, like he literally is my mentor still today. And I felt like I had one voice of reason to do that. But I will say where I got lost was comparison versus mentors. So like what you said about social media, or like, you know, how other companies are doing it, or not feeling good enough because someone else has, like, we're just at a different phase in our companies too. Like they've already been like, I'm never gonna have, Stripe was at like a completely different level of funding, and where we were at, like just the comparison of social media and like looking at competitors versus like, that's where I think it shifted. But I think your advice is super solid on just trusting your instinct and your gut. And then every time you make that, like, you come back to it where like you should have listened. You're like, I fucking knew it. Like you knew that flag, you knew the thing, and you knew the like every which of it. But hindsight's always 2020, right? Like we can only go back, and this is why it's so great to learn from other people's experiences. But I do feel like it's a very similar founder journey of, then you also have data. So then you have market data, you have smarter people. So you have a smarter CFO now. Now you have a better agency that has all of this data that's telling you this is what's working as well.
Yep.
So it's not your fault. Like you are literally doing your best to make data decisions now. And then
also the whole point is that you hire for the parts of the business that you are not an expert at. So you like listen to those things. But I think at the end of the day, you have to take all that data, listen to the people around you, and inform decision based off of your gut. And sometimes it doesn't listen to the data or what the other person is saying. And I found that as the stakes got higher with the company, the harder it was to listen to the gut.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, Delulu level of crazy, but I believed in myself in such an insane way that it was like you couldn't tell me nothing. Like you couldn't tell me that my decision was wrong. Literally, a lot of the products we launched, the mineral SPF, the one with the no white cast, and that innovation in general, and all of that, like everyone told me that was crazy. They were like, you do not launch an SPF this early in your company. It won't get done in time. That claim is not possible to do, blah, 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 blah. Just all of these things. Then it just immediately won a WWD award. It was something that actually got like viral momentum for us than we hadn't had before that. I then started to get scared to do that because now we're a bigger company, and instead of keeping that startup scrappy creativity, I lost it in the idea of scale and like fear of the wrong decision, knowing now it impacted so many more people. I had a lot more employees. By the way, this is still now. Like I am now finally course correcting it because I've done a lot of the inner work the same way I did, like I said, in my personal life and my professional life, to recognize that like the biggest wins happened when I listened to myself. So I have to be confident and secure in that, because if I didn't want to do that, then I shouldn't have been a founder. I should have gone and worked for someone else. If you're a person who's like, I actually don't want to do that. I want to go do my job and do my 9 to 5, pay my bills for my children, and have a life outside of that. I think that also should be more normalized and not told to everyone they must go be an entrepreneur, because it literally is not for everybody.
It's not at all
Like
for
for
anyone.
the specific kind of person, like you said earlier to me. And it has to be a person who is fearless and will listen to their gut and have Delulu level of crazy belief in themselves. And so I have to remind myself that. And I think anyone, whoever is watching this, that maybe is on year 5 and is kind of starting to feel that like exhaustion of their own, like, wheel that's churning, is just, now that I'm on year 7, I'm back to like reminding myself of that. Like, the wins come when you listen to yourself. No matter who you hire, they're there to advise you, but the decision and the outcome all is in your hands, is just such an important reminder.
Such an important one. And I'll also share like some advice here for those that might feel in that piece of it, where you aren't able to listen to in order for you to listen, you have to have space.
Yes, that's so real.
So the reason why, when I look back and when I have space, I make great decisions.
Yeah.
When I don't have space and my calendar is completely packed, I'm going from thing to thing to thing. I'm like in only execution mode. And if you're building and scaling, like, you're never going to have the time. Like, it's impossible. So this version of like this reality of like, oh, these founders, like, they just have the time or they just make these good decisions. Like, no, right now, block every Friday. So my community knows this. I do not work on Friday. Okay. I wish I had implemented this.
You don't do the meetings, or you're not working? Like, your brain, how do you get your brain to not think about it?
Now at this phase now, I'll work like a half day, but I really don't. I'll be honest, I don't work Fridays now. But before, it was like maybe morning, and we only have our founders meeting on Friday. So I have a 10 a.m. standing with my founders, and it's our creative meeting. And so it literally, and by the way, we've had this with me, my brother, and my co-founder. And every Friday at 10 a.m., we've spoken for the last like 15 years. And we just shoot the shit. We like relax, and we're like, this is where like our best ideas come from. And even right now, I see Sal in execution mode, and we all have to, he's like in it right now. But it's so important to pull ourselves out to make the time to actually have space. And something that like I do feel really grateful for, where I do think that we did have a really strong, I had co-founders. And so we were able to take on different parts of the business which a lot, like we were by yourself literally in the business, right? That's a different also level of, at the end of the day, the pressure is all going to be there. But when you can even share some of that burden, it's like a mental, like there are ways to like mentally like decompress in that, just to have a shared shared experience with co-founders. And so I do think that women, if we can get out of our own way, because also women, we are not great at collaborating. I have experienced this in running CEO school for 6 years now, 6,000 women through our stuff. As much as we're like collaboration over competition, girl, we are like not comfortable working with each other still.
I wish more women would talk to each other about money, like raw, real, hard numbers, like the way men go golfing and like talk to each other about like the investment deal they did.
All I do is talk about money all the time.
Yeah, no, when I went to your house, I straight up said, like, how much did you get and what from you exited your company? What are you doing with that money? I asked your husband for advice. Like, I think it's so important. Like, how are people supposed to learn what they should be doing if you don't talk about it? And it's I think people think it's tacky, or you're not culturally raised to do that, or whatever reason it is, it needs to go.
It needs to go. And having space is like, that's what's the decision like.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing I'm craving right now, which goes back to like bringing in the CEO kind of thing, is like, I want to feel creative again. I want to feel marketing ideas.
Try Founder Friday. Can we do Founder Friday?
Mm-hmm.
Try Founder Fridays, and let's report back on it. I think that burnout is really real in every role. And especially if you are building, like if you have a company and you have like even burnout from motherhood. So we want to talk about that for a second too, right? It's still the same thing. I have a full-time job at home. And so even space for myself. So even on Fridays when I drop the kids, I do drop off every day. My Fridays are my me day. It's a space day. I, of course, will respond to anything I need to, but I play tennis. And so I play tennis every Friday. I do an hour-long sauna on Friday. It's the day that, and it's not my day that I do my errands because I still have to get my nails done. It's still work for me. That's not like a relaxing, like I'm not getting my nails done to like, oh, it's self-care. This is how I have to show up to work.
I get it. So I do it. I have somebody come to my home and do it. So I do it during calls because this is a task.
Yes.
This is not relaxing.
It's not relaxing.
By the way, for me, massages are something I need to function in my life. Like
every Tuesday, I've had a massage forever.
It's an actual physical pain that I have in my shoulders that I can't. It's not one of those things that I'm like, let me go to a spa and relax for the day, get a massage. I'm like, no. I need a weekly massage for like functioning as a human being the way I need to go to the gym.
You and I are very similar. I think
it sounds insane to say, but I think if you say it to another founder, they get it. They're like, yeah. Like,
no, and it sounds crazy on the other.
It does sound crazy. It sounds like a really.
I remember she asked me, it was like something about like lymphatic massages, and I was like, yeah, I get one weekly. You're like, you bitch.
Like, damn, funny because now I do it.
Now you do it. Every week I have my Tuesday massage. And it is, and that's what I'm saying, financial freedom. But it wasn't about when I had money. These were things that I had to carve out, and I had to do them personally. Like, it's not like, and also what's really frustrating, if we're talking about frustrations and girl boss and like all this stuff, I get so frustrated. And the reason why, Deepika, I show up here to do this stuff is because I think that the advice that's given from everyone, like literally to women everywhere, is so bad. Like when I open my phone on Instagram, like there are people teaching stuff that have never lived through or gone through anything remotely that can share that same piece of advice. Tax advice, like money advice, like that's not a write-off. That is not a write-off for your business. And yes, that might be a write-off for someone in a very particular instance, that's whatever else. But no, my massages were not a write-off. And people are giving horrible advice online. So I just want to like bring that in why. Like I do show up here. There is a huge passion on like, I'm an educator and I like want to fix things. And that's like what I'm healing of. Like, I don't need to fix everything and I don't need to fix the world. That's like what my next journey is. But I feel this like responsibility.
I feel a responsibility.
And and that's why you do this stuff. Like that's why your entire product, and we can go back to that. And one of the things I did want the audience to learn from you is what I think. I mean, you've done so much really well, by the way. So I know we're talking about all the hard, and I didn't want to stop the camera and we'll go back, but
life and everything is so hard and I'm miserable. That's not the case at all.
Not that you're miserable. I think it's honest and it's refreshing, and I think it's important to share.
I think the internet is too much of like people showing their wins and not enough about the difficulties of how they got there.
I agree, and I think that
and the sacrifice.
And I think that's what you're sharing. Like you are sharing the real truth. And there will be a lot of gain in it too, right? There's a lot of gain that also comes, like the good comes with the bad, right? There is that balance. Like there is that balance. It does come with it. I want to shift into when I see you, and it's not just what I love about you, and I'm genuinely sharing this with you. I tell you this every time I'm with you in private. We never post about our like friendship or like anything. Like I genuinely, every time, whenever I sit with you, I feel deeply proud of you. And I feel deeply proud of you because I know how hard it actually takes to execute on what the world sees. It's not like it's easy to scroll past like just to see inspiration, right? There is so much execution and sacrifice that goes with that level of which to execute. And one of the things that people don't talk about, people can like blow up and get to the top or like whatever. We have our moments of like the grind and then the what we see as like founder fame. It's even harder to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And I think that is what, and that takes, and I recognize that because it does take, like, it was actually easier getting here than it is to actually go to this next level or to maintain that level of that responsibility now that you have and this community that you've built. And like, that is what I'm like really proud of you for. And it's not just like building this incredible business, doing it with mission and purpose, being the first of your kind, delivering a product that can be used for my mom and myself and for my girls and for my brown girls to see not just their mom. And like, I want them to see more girls like you, women like you that, you know, want to start companies. I tell you, my girls want to start their brand is gorgeous, gorgeous girls. And like they want it, they love when Deepika like comes over and they're showing like and it's because there was a part of you that you left with them that day. And that's what they relate to. They're not going to relate to tech right now. Right. They're not going to relate to, although my daughter, my little one, every time we go anywhere, she like sees like a Square terminal or any terminal. She's like, my mom invented that. Like that's like her. Yeah. That's it is.
That's really cool. Yeah, I think that is the goal of all of this, to leave like the world better for like the next generation of women.
It is
for sure.
So even in the hard, there is beauty in why women, when we build because it matters. And that is like what I really believe, and why like it is important. And yes, we have to also have all the things. We have to have the support. We have to have the right like mental health and all the things, but it's not easy. And I think that's what this conversation is super real. I want to take it back to what did go right though, And so the things that I love about your brand is community. That's like what I feel like when I think about it. I feel like you did a really great job of that. But when you look back,
before it was trending, we were a community.
You were a community.
Now everybody says community, but we really did start as that.
To talk to us about what does it take to build that community and what does it take to maintain that in 2026?
I mean, for me, it was about the fact that like I genuinely didn't have a home for beauty in my life, so I wanted to create it. Like I wanted to talk about beauty concerns nobody was talking about. It was like almost a taboo at the time. This was back when like perfection was glorified, right? Like the world has shifted now and it's more normalized that like your imperfections are your perfections and they're beautiful. But when we started Live Tinted, like the allures of the world were not talking about facial hair or hyperpigmentation and skin tones beyond like the ones that we saw in the magazines growing up. BLM happened and then there was a shift, right, in 2020. But we're back in a world where it's kind of just flipped back. And so what I'm seeing is that yeah, it's very scary. It's like we went from what the brand's root has always been, happened to launch a year before BLM. So it was hyperbolized and we got all these great accolades and a lot of press and a lot of momentum that's beautiful and awesome. The real challenge now is it's 2026 and every DEI initiative has pulled back. People it's not cool to talk about it. We live in Trump America. It's just a completely different kind of thing. And for me, the challenge, it's an exciting challenge, but also an important challenge and a difficult challenge is the fact that keeping the momentum, like you just said, is like, how can we ensure that inclusivity is still at the core of this brand without, it's less about talking the talk and walking the walk. Like I'm not screaming we're an inclusive brand because I also don't want to alienate the girl from Kansas City that with Ulta Beauty, our number one shades are our fair shades. Like
really, I'm surprised by that.
Yeah, because it all goes back to like the TAM of the US. It's all about the total addressable market. I have penetrated the South Asian market because we didn't have a brand that worked for us. That doesn't mean that the audience needs to and should stay married to just that audience because I won't become a mainstream brand if that's the case. Yeah. Especially because we're only in the US. Of course, globally, there's an opportunity to make it so that's the case. But that was never my dream. I never wanted to be the brown girl brand. I wanted to be the brand that was finally inclusive of brown girls. And there's a big difference. Like,
there is a difference.
I don't want to be in a niche aisle, like ethnic aisle. I want to be next to Bobbi Brown, MAC Cosmetics, Charlotte Tilbury. We deserve to have a brand founded by someone who looks like me next to the biggest brands in the world. And that is what's happening. We are literally in 6 feet of space in every single Ulta Beauty door next to all those brands I just named. And it's really iconic. And like my ultimate goal is that people are just picking up the product and have no idea it was founded by me, but then they like randomly hear it and they're like, a brown girl made this? Like, that's cool. That to me, like right now, it's always called out and it's great because it has to be called out until it doesn't. It's always called out like South Asian beauty founder, Deepica Mutyala. Like that's how I'm always introduced, or like the first South Asian brand in Ulta. All those things need to be called out because it's still not normalized. It's still so unique. You can count on, luckily now, by the way, when I started, it was me. Now you can count on one hand how many are South Asian founded. And now in the beauty industry globally, you can count on multiple hands. And year by year, I've been seeing the shift happen. And it's like very, very cool to see. And I think for me, though, the ultimate goal and when I feel like my purpose has been made is that like, it's just about Live Tinted. The products are epic. They're awesome. You feel connected to it because it works so perfectly for your skin tone.
I do use Hue Guard every single day.
As you should.
And I actually don't use the tinted version of it. I use like the plain.
Yeah. And that's the OG one that no one believed I should make. That was our third product we ever made. And everyone was like, why are you going straight to SPF?
Because I still wear makeup and I the tinted, like I have to wear makeup every day. And so I think that it's like the thinnest product. It's like genuinely, it's a great
SPF.
Yes. And it's moisturizing. And I have like the driest skin ever.
I love that. And yeah, like the thing I know people feel when they use our products is, wow, this was made for me, because we do such a good job with the complexions and undertones of the products. So to me, that's really the legacy I want of Live Tinted, not Deepica Mutyala. I want it to be Live Tinted. Those are some epic products, and holy crap, wow, they happen to be founded by an Indian girl. Dope.
That is really dope. And I can really also relate in it comes to mind when I sold the company. All of the titles also said like minority, Pakistani, like found one. I was born in America. My parents are Pakistani. I am Pakistani. I love being Pakistani.
Yeah.
And no, I wasn't the first. Like we were just the first unicorn. It wasn't the first female unicorn. It wasn't the first minority unicorn. We were the first unicorn out of Central Florida. Period. Like period. Not with the minority and those were important, and I was really proud of those things as well, but I don't think I've ever shared that like that reminded me of that, of like, no, period, I am a unicorn founder, period.
And it's just the age of life we're in, where I hope when your daughters are growing up, my future kids are growing up, that like that's just not the case. But until then, like, I've been obsessed with watching the NASA mission, and they're like, what do you want people to know about the NASA mission? They're like, we don't want people to be talking about this NASA mission, because hopefully there's been so many others that have happened since, that it's not about us. It's about getting to the next step of that. So like, I feel like we're saying the same, like you in tech and me in beauty. It's like, how are we laying the groundwork to making it so, like you said, there's so many of us and women are working together and we are growing, that our narrative is like almost down here, and we're okay with that, because it's actually not about the accolades. It's about laying the groundwork for a new generation of people.
But being the first is also, it's just such a responsibility, and I just recognize that. And it's just being at the top also is really difficult, because you're also in a space that like every space is, and this is for every single product, whether you're in tech, you're in SaaS, like the market is so saturated, right? Noise online it's so hard to get anyone's attention.
Oh yeah.
Like what are some, like, just to switch into like, to close this up, of like, what are some things that you are seeing? Like you are a fast growing company. You guys have been around for 7 years. You're still scaling rapidly. Like what are the things that you are seeing working in 2026, that, because it shifts, it constantly shifts. So like what's working right now?
Being a digital brand and scaling and paid ads and all that. And then as that shifted, a retailer was really critical, and it still is for us, for our growth strategy. Like physically being in a store with a footprint with 1,400 doors has been a game changer for us with Ulta Beauty. So I would say, like, for me in 2026, the three pieces, I was just talking to a friend about this, is retail footprint, funding to fund that retail footprint, and a great marketing flywheel to make that churn and go through sell-through. So like those are the three pieces I think you need. And then of course, like the right team to make sure that the operations are happening. I think like if you can figure those pieces out and make it go together, a lot of businesses can work with the right kind of vision and mindset. I'm simplifying it, right? Fundraising is not easy. Getting the retailer is not easy. The marketing flywheel is really
hard.
And all of it. But like, I think a lot of people are seeing, including myself, a random brand go TikTok viral, and they sell thousands of units. Big deal, by the way, especially a lot of these brands who are only on TikTok because they're not in a retailer. Huge deal. Huger deal to sustain that for 5 years.
Yeah, that's what it is. Popping off is one thing. It's just like sustaining growth, it's a whole nother. Thank you so much for all of that advice. To close this up, I want to take us back to, you said you did a lot of inner work. And I do believe that the best CEOs, founders, women, right? Like the more work we can do inside, like the better we show up for everything that comes at us. And let's be honest, it's so hard. Like it's so hard with everything that we have. What were some of the things, like you said, journaling, you mentioned inner work. Would you mind like sharing like what are things that really like landed with you that you were able to stay consistent with in your habits? Do you have a morning routine? Do you have an evening routine? Would love to like talk about your mindset.
I think for me, and again, I know everyone can't get a therapist, but if it's not a therapist, I think just finding a singular human, what you said about having just one mentor, I think is so important in the noisy world we live in today. You open your phone and everyone is a therapist, everyone is a expert, everyone wants to give you advice that sometimes you didn't ask for, but your algorithm tells you that you need. And I found that like even with my girlfriends, I have very much have been a person through my 20s who was so easy to be impressionable by what my friends said or thought and caring what other people think. The biggest game changer for me has been not listening even to my friends. Like I cannot listen to my friend who has had a uniquely different experience from I have. There's always biases involved. Having a therapist for me for the last 8 years, I started in 2018, so I don't know. Yeah, 8 years. Wow. With the same person. It's an unbiased human being who I can talk to, who very much is not going off of their own experiences, but just the memories of my life path that I have shared with her has been a complete game changer
I
for
love
me.
that advice.
When I talk to my other girlfriends right now who ask me advice, she's like, well, blah, blah, blah said this, and this person told me this, and well, your life looks like this. I'm like, none of us are you. You need an inner voice and a dialogue, and a therapist has taught me how to listen to my inner voice and dialogue versus the noise of the world around me, including the people I love, like my friends and family, who all have their own biases because of their own life. So I would say, of course, like all the things, meditation, breath work. Have I been consistent with all of those for the last 8 years? No, I go through phases. I journal for phases of my life. I meditate for phases of my life. I'm good about turning off my phone for every Saturday for phases of my life. The thing I've consistently done for 8 years is therapy weekly.
I love that. And it's very honest. I also too relate to what you said on phases. Like, I don't think that there's ever been like one season in my life that I have the same routine. Like, it'll just be something or
Not
whatever.
realistic. I mean, listen, shout out to whoever out there is that consistent. Life happens.
Yes.
And like you
But
go
therapy is important. I think that that is something like what you said is consistency that you've been able to practice and do. I think that that is solid advice, and listening to your intuition. I think that that is just the best advice ever. I think that we forget, we've always have it, but creating that space to listen, I think is like what we can all kind of take away from.
I just feel like I hear a lot of podcasts where women are like, I do yoga and meditation and breath work and all this stuff. And I think you hear it and hear it and you hear it. So you tell yourself you need to do it. And it becomes exhausting to do it. Sometimes the best therapy for me is to sit in bed and do jack shit. Vacation feels exhausting. Getting ready for vacation feels exhausting. Putting on makeup and getting ready is all exhausting, especially when you have to get ready for work. And so for me, I think like my self-care routine is so like just not giving myself so much that I have to do. It's the opposite of that. It's just like the bare minimum of doing nothing and like getting advice from one singular human.
I really love that. I think that's solid advice, and I'm glad that we got to hear it from you today. I'm so glad that we were able to
We did
do
it.
this.
2 years later.
2 years later, couple years later, but I really love the way that the conversation unfolded. And I think our audience and everyone's going to get so much out of this authentic conversation. You crushed it. And I know there is so much more that's up ahead, but I'm most excited about you in your personal journey, in your love journey, in your soon to be life journey and motherhood and all of that. And it's a great reminder about just being intentional and like allowing ourselves to like not feel bad for wanting to be in our feminine. And like that is so cool and beautiful and fun, and like feels like
being a girl is fun.
Being the girl, like this is what it is. Like it's
girl.
just a girl. We're just two girls over here. If you enjoyed today's episode, please let us know. This is how we grow the show. This is how we share these voices and this commonality of like things that if you need to send this to like this one friend that needs to hear this, which all of your friends need to hear this episode, press that button, hit share, tag Deepika, tag me. I'd love to take this conversation from the show to like in real life or in our DMs. So screenshot it and share it, and let's we'll see you next week on the CEO School podcast. Thank you, Deepika, for being here today on the show. I know they all loved it. I know I did.
Thanks for having me.